One day in the first grade, in the lunchroom, I had to get up to go grab a napkin after spilling my Capri Sun on myself. However, on my way back, I saw my best friend eating my Oreos, and I told him I would never talk to him again. A week later, very lonely for missing my best friend, I decided I had to take the high road, and I invited him over to come play. This leads us back to today's quotation. Never succumb to the temptation of bitterness, by Martin Luther King Jr. What this means is that in order to truly find joy or happiness, we must find ways of getting rid of our anger. Maybe we can see it in 3 key areas. First, taking a look at how to resist the urge to be vengeful. Second, taking a look at how to get rid of anger on in our lives. And lastly, taking a look at how to take our grief and turn it into something positive. First though, we must take a look at how to resist the urge to be vengeful. And we can see it through the Disney movie Big Hero 6. The movie stars Hero, and in the very beginning of the movie, Hero's brother dies mysteriously in a fire. However, Hero and his brother's friends eventually learn that this was not any mystery, and they decide to become superheroes in order to see what truly happens. However, as the movie progresses and progresses, we see that Hero is no longer doing this to find out what truly happened. He is only doing this out of the anger in our hearts. And his brother friend cools him down and says that he needs to take a moment alone. And Hero realizes that being angrier, having revenge will never make him feel better, and he'll never get his brother back. The only thing Hero could truly do is to find acceptance with his brother's death, and to grieve healthfully. This is something we all must learn how to do. We will all deal with bad news in our lifetime. We might all want to lash out at some point. However, that will never make us feel better. The only way to truly feel better is to deal with our problems head on. So, if we're ever in a negative scenario, or finding anger or the will to hurt people in our hearts, we must remember that no matter what, that will never help. Second though, we must take a look at how to get rid of anger later on in our lives. We can see this through the story of the peaceful painter, Bob Ross. Bob Ross grew up in a poor household, and he had to leave high school in the 9th grade to help pay for his family. And at the age of 18, he joined the Air Force, eventually being promoted to the Master Sergeant. However, this meant that he had to yell at everybody about scrubbing the bathrooms, making the beds, or to always be on time. And he did not like the person he was becoming. So, when he left the military, he vowed to himself that he would never yell again. Today, we most notably know Bob Ross as a person that's never angry, and this is for good reason. In his own words, he says that he will never be angry because when he has those feelings, he takes a step back and realizes all the good he has in the world. This is something we all must learn to do. Instead of succumbing to the temptation of bitterness, instead, we must take a look at our surroundings, have some perspective, and realize that all the good we have in our lives are all reasons to be happy. We must not wallow in the fields of negativity. Instead, we must look to what is good in the world and focus on that. Lastly though, we have to take a look at how to turn our grief and to make it something positive and productive. We can see that through the story of Esther Heeman. Esther Heeman's sister died in 2005 in a suicide bombing. And Esther originally lashed out at friends and family and reserved herself to isolation. Left with all these negative thoughts, she could not make herself better until she went to a meeting in therapy and realized that the only way to get over her sister's death were to turn these negative emotions and make them positive. So she started an organization that goes to school kids. It helps teach kids how to deal with their negative emotions and turn that into their own happiness. We will all have negative feelings at one point or another, but we cannot let ourselves sit in them. Instead, we must focus how to take these negative feelings and turn it into an incentive to do something good for ourselves, our friends, and the rest of the world. Looking back at today's quotation, "Never succumb to the temptation of bitterness," by Martin Luther King Jr. What this means is that the sooner we learn how to get rid of anger and negative emotions in our lives, the sooner we are to truly finding happiness in this world. We can see it in 3 key areas. First, we took a look at how we must learn not to be vengeful, as it will not make us feel better, through the story of Hero and Big Hero 6. Second, taking a look at how to deal with our anger and find perspective in our sadness, like Bob Ross did. And lastly, taking a look at how to turn your grief and make it to something positive and wonderful, like Esther Heeman did. Yes, I was mad at first about my best friend stealing my cookie, but I realized that I could not focus on that, and that there are so many other good things in the world, like hanging out with my friend and eating Oreos together.